If you've ever had a false sense of your own survivability, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Guys, like and comment. The comment section is out of control. I will do nothing to control you guys, so make sure that you get in there. If you guys are looking to support the channel, the biggest support of the channel right now is Big Daddy Unlimited. Big Daddy Unlimited being the Costco of the gun world. Is it worth it? Well, it really depends on if you're buying products. Absolutely. If not, no, it's not going to be worth it. Guys, we have a couple other sponsors on this particular video. So of course we have the Dude Bag, gifts for people you don't know what the hell to get them. Dude Bag, good option for you. We have, of course, American Barrels and Max Arms, who often has ammunition in stock. Go check them out. Ladies and gentlemen, my often forgotten, but most certainly not by me, 1911 A1s. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about a very cool subject. And I can't do these next to you. And one I've been meaning to do for a long time, and that's to get you to come onto the channel, Travis, and talk about gunfighting, man. And specifically talk about surviving gunfights. You have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of experience. I don't want to steal your thunder, man. I want to let you kind of tell your story. But I can't thank you enough for coming on to educate my viewers. It's something that's very important to me. So thanks for coming on, dude. I appreciate it. And
thanks, man.
Awesome with you, man.
You're getting really good at that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's because you're my dad and everything. Are you gonna admit it yet, or no? Nope, nothing yet.
Why? It's been so great so far, so long. Anyways, guys, thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Yeah, I mean, my background, for those of you guys that don't know, 15 years in the Marine Corps, most of the time in the force reconnaissance community. Did a lot of contracting and other work for different government agencies and things like that. A lot of consulting, law enforcement.
Yeah.
Spent about 8 years in law enforcement as a consultant, and my travels and training, and then getting into the private sector and industry, specifically the defense industry, where we are a bridge. Is what we like to do, is bridge the gap between different communities, whether it's product development. I love every aspect of product development, so I kind of inject myself to everything. So as a trainer, if I'm out teaching somebody what's going to happen, somebody asks me a question about how this works or why we would use it in a certain area, I try to bridge that gap between product development and creation into that end user's world. And then, of course, the training world itself is why we're sitting here right now, is education, and discovery. And I think that's starting to lack in our community, because there's so much information out there. I'm afraid that we're no longer being informed. And so that's what we want to try to do, is inform people.
Damn. That's powerful right there, man.
Yeah. That's why I do what I do, man. I mean, I've been doing this a long time now, and that's the passion that drives me, is because when I see people have a lack of information, what does that create, man? It creates that vicious cycle of fear, because I don't know, I'm scared, man, so what do we do? Let's go throw rocks through windows. Like, come on, man, because that fear just created hate, and hate obviously breeds destruction, and I'm tired of seeing it. And so let's start at the root cause, information, and that's what we're here.
I can't wait, man. Please feel free to take it off, man. I just can't wait to hear.
So so gunfighting.
Gunfighting, man. We've been very lucky on this channel to have great guys come talk to us. We've had Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Just a giant of a man. Small man. He's Irish, so he's a tiny guy. Garrett Schwindel, also a tiny man.
Yeah. So I'm the tallest guy so far.
Actually the tallest guy so far. And they've all had a different take on what it took for them to survive a gunfight, to get through these very difficult scenarios, and because mindset is different for everybody has different experiences, everybody has different physiology, so everybody is different with what they bring to the table. And one thing that's always been really interesting to me is your very scientific approach to how you're kind of dissecting a lot of this very violent, very, very complex, very chaotic process. And so I can't explain how excited I am to discuss this, just to have a good, frank conversation with you about this.
Yeah. It's a conversation that doesn't happen a lot. So when you asked me, I was excited because, and like the other guys that have been on the show and other people that I hear out there sharing their discoveries, and the possibilities that they've created from their experiences is really what it's all about. It's about sharing, right?
I agree.
That is the life. That's what we should be living. That's what we do. Some people say, why are you guys on TV so much? It's like, because we're sharing and we're trying to open up new possibilities for people through education, motivation, inspiration, empowerment, and yes, entertainment. It's a part of the job.
Sometimes it's got to be a little flashy.
Yeah, because you don't want to watch boring shit. I mean, nobody does.
No.
So I think one of the things that, looking back, how do you survive a gunfight?
It's such a broad question.
It's hugely broad. I think I've thought about this a lot, and how you survive a gunfight, it typically is not during the gunfight, it's after the gunfight. And I think that's because you have to discover that. I'm not saying go out and get in a gunfight to have this knowledge.
That's what they're going to go do. They're going out now.
Yeah, that's a part of the distinction here is that I will say don't do that. But if you find yourself in the moment, because as you know, the moment chooses you. You don't get to choose it. And I see a lot of people out there saying, yeah, I had to get it on, man. Let's go do this. If somebody ever breaks in my house, I'm just going to fucking smoke them. And I'm like, you can't say that, because with that mentality, you're a gun-toting fool. And I'm saying that from my own personal experiences because I was a gun-toting fool as a kid, Joined the Marine Corps at 17, 18, I'm on the way. And next thing you know, as soon as I hit the fleet, boom, we're overseas at Persian Gulf. And you're in this environment that you're not told what's going on. You don't get a lot of intelligence, so you have to kind of figure things out the hard way. And I think that's not a bad thing, because that discovery is important. So you start to find little formulas that I sit and take now and break down and go, what are my sustains from what I took away terminally from these experiences that I've had, or other people, talking to all these other guys. What are we terminally taking away from them, and what should I have improved on? So I find these little formulas, and there's a combat hunter formula that I kind of manipulated a little bit that I learned in the military as a first one. So when people say, hey, what's a winning formula for a gunfight? Well, first off, thinking before shooting. That's why I say that. It's not just some hashtag. It literally means, hey, I'm in the crap or the shit right now. What do I need to do? What's the risk I'm about to take over time, right? So it's a formula. So need versus risk over time. Now, if I ask you, how much time do you have in a gunfight? Sit with that moment, with that thought for a moment. Like, how much time do you actually have? What's the typical answer that people say?
For the thing you always hear in the military, the rest of your life, right?
I hope that's
it's the same thing with like a parachute. Like, how long do you have to figure out if your reserve shoot? It's like for the rest of your life, right?
And that's where it comes from, is from the skydiving community, because you only have so much time left. But that's actually a good example, because when we jump out of an airplane and we have an issue, I know my hard deck, right? I know how far away the ground is. I know how fast I'm falling per thousands of feet, so I can actually give you a calculated time. But in a gunfight, the answer is you don't know. And if anybody says they know, okay, I want to tap into that person, because they can teach me a lot. And after being in a lot of gunfights, looking back, I realized the biggest answer to that question is you'll never know. It could be half of a second to 2 days long, which I've experienced both, unfortunately and fortunately, to be able to sit and talk about it. So those formulas are great, because it allows me to instantly pull into my house and go, holy shit, my front door's broken and there's glass and wood chips everywhere. What do I need to do right now? What's the risk I'm about to take? But what do you think the first thing you should probably do is? Where's my family? Right? Most guys are going to be like, I'm going in, because pride's fucking with me and I got to get in my house. And like, no, that's not the case, man. Where's the most important thing in your life? If you have a family. If you're a single dude and pride's messing with you, what do you think you're going to want to do?
They're bringing a push right in, probably.
But is there anything worth risking, the next word? No, there's not. So if I determine my family's not in the house, I just dropped them off at grandma's, I forgot the casserole for Thanksgiving, let's say, and I come home and see this event happening, I'm going to back off, call the cops, and just sit there and give them intel. And from the neighbor's yard or whatever, look for freaking, pilot cars or drivers somewhere sitting, watching me, because you never know who's watching you. So what you need to do is back off, call 911, and go into a defensive posture. So that would be taking less risk, because there's nothing in the house worth dying over. So hopefully you can determine what's in your home that's worth dying over. If it's not a human life, to me, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So then you go into the next part of it. What if time is working against you? Because you just got a text from your family saying, hey, are you going to be home? Dinner's on the table, or whatever the case, or hey, we're supposed to go out. You're not here yet. You're like, yeah, I'm 5 minutes around the corner. And you pull into that same exact scenario.
Way different.
What do you need to do now, and what's the risk you're going to take over time? Time is working against me, so I need to take more risk. Now, what risk? Do I just run in and say, hey, Navy SEAL's here to get you out? And no, because now you're forcing a hostage situation or whatever else. So you got to be an understanding of your house. You got to understand your blueprints. Can you get around your side gates, etc.? And I could go through all the tactics, but I won't. But what are your concentric rings of security that you have that can help you in that situation when time is working against you? So you take these experiences from combat or just training and put them into your life. So a lot of people might say, what the hell is a concentric ring of security? Okay, my gun on my nightstand. Let's just say it's hypothetical because it's not necessarily where I might keep my gun. But let's say you have it on a nightstand. That's the center ring. That's you, let's say your wife, and the kids. You're all sleeping in that same area. You're the nucleus. Well, what's the next concentric ring of security? Do you have locks on your bedroom door? Do you have a safe room? Do you have an old iPad or phone Velcroed to the wall that where you can tap into your cameras when you go into the closet? I use night lights, like these obnoxious, like horribly obnoxious bright neon blue night lights that trip off for 30 seconds, and I have them all through my house. So as somebody walks through, blue lights will light up, letting me know that if I walk out my bedroom door and I see a blue light on over by the back porch, okay, somebody was just there within 30 seconds. Doesn't mean it was a bad person, because maybe my son, like one time happened to me, was walking around with blankie sleepwalking, like 4 years old, when the alarm was going off because the wind blew the door open. But I came out with my gun, and there's my son in the middle of the living room now. Not you, some other kid.
And I was wondering.
Yeah. Mike, why are you not shooting this guy?
Sorry.
So, and then I realized, oh my God, now I've got a foreground and background issue. So those lights trip me off to where something might be. I still need to have good target identification. Then you got doors, locks, windows, night lights, the outdoor floodlights, gates, dogs. Those are all concentric rings of security, just to give you that quick example. So what that is in conjunction to that formula, need versus risk over time, plus resources available. See that?
Yeah.
So all those things were resources available that I didn't know until I started getting into shitty situations in my life and going, ooh, I had a gap there.
Now, are those formulas that you came up with kind of in those situations, or that you knew going into those situations when you were younger?
I think that's the biggest improvement, right? We talk about sustains and improves of combat experiences going, I was taught this stuff, but did I truly pay attention to it? No, because it wasn't sexy. That's a problem for us. I mean, you see that in the military now.
For sure.
That guys want to pay attention to stuff that they want to pay attention to. And I don't like to say the word regret, but looking back, if I could have done anything differently, I would have paid attention and been present a lot more. Not just in military training, but also family, my kids, coming home to a 9-year-old going, Mom, who's that? When I walk in the door, that's an experience that you don't forget. It's not just about putting rounds down range. It's about the effect that it has on you physiologically, psychologically, the effect it has on your family members or anybody else that you're associated with. So this formula, need versus risk over time, working for you or against you, plus resources available, will give you a decision in action. At least something, right? It may not always be the best decision in action, which I can tell you from personal experiences, failing over and over and over again in my life. I realize that's why I succeed, is because I'm able to take and break down those things and dissect them, sequence them, put stakes on the table. It's kind of like a DISC method that Tim Ferriss came up with, and he taught me that. And it's like, wait, it's right in front of you this whole time. You just got to understand how it applies in your life.
That's interesting.
And so sometimes it takes discovery. Sometimes it takes, hey, you got to figure it out. And that's the definition of a master, right? Is not to say, hey, here's exactly what you need to do and where you need to go, which I'm seeing a lot of instructors and people do in the industry.
Yes.
Versus going, hey, here's a direction. Well, what's there? Something.
That's what you've been teaching me these last few days. That's what I've been learning.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
And I used to really hammer, this is one of my next points, is knowledge, right? Knowledge is what?
It's power.
Sorry.
No?
No.
Ah, damn it.
So my opinion, personally,
Hit me.
Is knowledge is potential power.
Interesting. Okay. I'm ready.
Now, if you have a plan of execution, how many dudes do you know that can recite every aspect of ballistics, like internally,
Tons.
externally, terminal ballistics with a sniper rifle, but they can't hit the target at 100 meters.
Yeah.
So they have incredible knowledge, but they've never gone out with a plan of execution to see how that discovery of the knowledge comes together.
That real world kind of potential.
You got to go out and discover, right? You can't just know it all. You got to discover it all. Sometimes that discovery is going to help make you do what? It's going to make you trip and fall and maybe even hurt other people. And that's also the fortunate and unfortunate aspect of combat, is losing lives. There's nothing funny about it. It's serious business. And you high five, you smoke a dude, you're like, oh, look at that guy's head come apart. You know, when a JDAM hits the ground or whatever. But you have to put the human factor into that and realize, just like I was talking about in the car on the way here. That French documentary with that kid that traveled from Europe to fight the insurgency in Iraq and finally gets there. And then on film, you see him with an RPG for the first time, never fired a weapon in his life, pops up over a head or over this little piece of metal in this urban blown up terrain. And next thing you know, his head comes apart. And that's the first time I ever saw on TV the effect of what I was doing. And I was like, whoa. Everybody laughed at first when they saw it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
humanizes it.
That kid had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
He had no fucking idea why he was going all the way across the world, except for some ideology that he didn't truly understand, which means he was in fear. And his fear created hatred, and his hatred created destruction. And it was his destruction. And I hate that. I do. I hate it, man. Because if we went back to the root cause of that kid's problem, a 19-year-old kid who didn't know knowledge created destruction. So let's go back to the root cause again. Why we're sitting here is knowledge transfer. That's what our YouTube channels are about in the defense industry, is transferring as much as we possibly can. So hopefully you don't screw up like we did. And if you do screw up, at least you have a formula to bounce back from it. Because I see a lot of guys now that are like, they can't bounce back. They do. And let me get this straight, man. I will go overseas right now and do it again in a heartbeat. Give me just unlimited ammo next time. I have no heartburn taking out evil things in this world. If you like, especially in my own home, if somebody tried to hurt my family, dude, I will. In my head, I'm like skinning them alive and lighting them on fire in the streets for everybody to see, to make a spectacle out of it. But I didn't hurt or kill that person out of their evil motive or intent. I did it because I care about something so much more precious, like my family, my brothers. Yeah. That's why we do what we do. So that's why compassion, I've learned the hard way, and through my experience, is the number one attribute to a gunfighter, because the more you care about something, the harder you're going to fight for it. Man, our freedom.
You talked a lot about this with me last night when we were kind of just talking, and you talked how we've kind of lost our way with these thousands of years of warrior tradition and culture, and that we've forgotten what it means. And you had a really good point about that. Was it your father who told? I'm trying to remember the exact quote that your father told you, but it kind of harkened back
to
that.
As nice as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my father and my grandfather, I come from 8 generations of gunfighter. Mike's the ninth. But, back to the American Revolutionary War, actually, your 9th great-grandfather fought as a private under your 8th grandfather as a sergeant in the Northern Virginia Army in the American Revolutionary War in 1776. Yeah. So, and I found out that just recently, in the last couple of years. Wow. I found all the military records. So, it goes back to this whole... hey, Thomas Paine said, if there's going to be trouble, let it be now in my time, so in the future my children may be safe. Well, I wonder if number 9 said that. I wonder if number 8 said that. 7 said that. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here I am sitting here looking at my kids growing up and say, Dad, what's the military like? And I'm like, you know what to do, right? So you got to keep it going. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, man, I don't want them to see that. But what did Thomas Paine really mean? Did he mean if there's trouble in my time? No, there's always going to be trouble. There's always going to be evil. And anybody that thinks there's not, that's like the opposite of saying there's always going to be good. Yeah. No, there's not always going to be good. So, you have to understand that it's the balance of opposites. And sometimes it takes good men to stand up to create good times, so that we prevent the shit that we're dealing with right now.
I agree.
But like these guys, I would listen to their blood-soaked horror stories of war growing up, and I just knew that was my destiny. And so before I went off my first deployment, I called Mom and Dad and said, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while. This is the payphone days. I got 30 dudes behind me screaming at me. And he said, hey, listen, man, before you go, you're going to see a lot of great things in the world. And I said, yeah, I know, Dad. That's why I signed up. He said, well, I know, but listen, you're also going to see a lot of bad things in life when you go out there. I was like, yeah, Dad, I know. That's why I signed up. And he said, but listen, just do me a favor. If you ever gotta take a man's life, and I'm like, Like, Dad's about to tell me something awesome. Here it comes.
Yeah.
And he goes, just do it as nicely as you can. And I'm like, what? Like, who's that man, right? And so I'm like, okay, I get it. I think that makes no sense. Love you, Dad. I got to go. I got dudes behind me. Say, Mom, bye, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I would have to say now, looking back again on the sustain and improve concept of just something as simple as that quote to me, that statement to me on the phone, it took me 30 plus years to figure out what he meant. Kill them as nicely as you can. We see that problem with law enforcement officers today that have they have a shitty morning. They wake up on the wrong side of the bed. They get in a fight with their spouse or their supervisor. They go out on the street, and next thing you know, they're taking that negative thought interaction and negative law of attraction into an actual situation where you go, show me your license registration, please. What do you think I'm going to do if you walk up to me and say that? You're going to inject the negative law of attraction on me. So you're going to get an equal or opposite reaction. And so at that point, how do you be nice in that situation? Hey, good afternoon, sir. How you doing today? Hey, this is an awesome car, man. This is a new model? Yes, sir. Yeah, it is. I'm interviewing him at that point. So use your skill sets, if you're doing this stuff. Because if that dude does have a gun under his lap and you're like, show me your license registration, please. He's not going back to jail, and guess where you're going? It's as simple as that. And that's why when people go, law of attraction, some silly freaking hippie, whatever. No, it's not. It's energy, and it's everywhere. That's why you're loved and hated. Just read those comment sections below and keep them going, because it's awesome. We love to see the balance of opposites. It doesn't affect us, right? Because it has no meaning to us, because we're able to take it and create something new. Again, these experiences are what I take back from combat, because a lot of times the stressors that come with combat, I think, is the biggest thing that I try to talk about and create a distinction with. How do you live with it? Well, shooting somebody that's evil is easy to live with. Trust me, it's easy to do that. It's when you screw up is hard to, well, it's not hard, it's impossible to pick up the pieces from that mistake. It's like glass, man. It's broken forever. Yeah. And whether you lose a brother, whether you shoot somebody that you shouldn't, whether you you see that ordinance is released and you're like, and you see a car pull around a corner, like, dude, there's sometimes you just can't help what happens, but your ass will live with it the rest of your life. That doesn't mean you got to be in Durkistan somewhere fighting bad guys. It could be in your house in the middle of the night, and the next day when the cops are there and they're cleaning up the mess, and you're trying to keep your kids from seeing the mess that's on the floor, and your family's psychologically and physiologically destroyed now, and they're going to have PTSD from this event. You're going to have social disorders. The neighbors and teachers and counselors are going to find out about it. Next thing you know, you're relocating your whole family because you wanted to plug some dude in your house. So that's why I say build concentric rings of security. Yeah. Like when people come to my home defense courses, I say, hey, how many guys would shoot somebody if they came in your house? Everybody raises their hand.
Hands up.
And I'm like, why? Because I can. Like, why the fuck would you want to shoot a gun in your house? That's what I asked them. I say, because I'll say, like, I want to learn how to use a gun better in my house. I'm like, why would you want to learn how to use a gun better in your house? That makes no sense. So how do you prevent from doing that? That's what a good gunfighter is, and that's where the compassion, that number one loss, kicks in for me. And then number two is vulnerability. Do you have the courage to be imperfect? Because if you do, that means you're able to do the next two steps. Take care of yourself, and then you can take care of others. So if you really truly are a person that wants to go out and help and serve your community, your country, you want to uphold a higher standard of care for it, higher standard of care. So therefore you have to be compassionate. You have to be vulnerable and understand that, look, I'm going to tell you my mistakes. That's what I do when I teach classes. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you. I'm not going to glorify combat. I'm going to tell you how bad it is. And if you're still willing to go, that's the person I want to be with. And if you're not willing to go, then it's just not your time. And it's not something you should be doing. So you have to be careful with that, which is why we stress training so much in a world that's all about products right now. Because we've made it about products, but it's really about people. So those are the little things that really stand out to me, is those laws, being vulnerable. A lot of people don't know how to do that nowadays. You go into a military unit, you start talking about vulnerability, and they're like, what?
It's a no-go. It's a
no-go. Why? Why is it a no-go? So let's go back to what I think you were asking about earlier. Create destruction based on a lack of knowledge. So again, these are all great, after action feedback that I've had from my life experiences. And that's why I said earlier that sometimes the best way to survive a gunfight is to look back on it. and to, you know, realize your sustains and improves. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get to look back on it because they're dead. And I'm lucky. I'm extremely lucky, not because I'm skilled. I know I'm skilled, but I know also, just like Wyatt Earp said, that the longer you carry a gun, the more chances of you running into somebody that's going to show you how to use it is very real. So I never forget that. And that also creates, you know, the humble aspect, the vulnerability aspect, that, and that's how I live today, you know? So.
That was some really powerful stuff, man. You know, I think that there's so much that goes into, you know, people come onto these videos thinking that you're going to tell them, well, this is what you do in a gunfight. All right, so you gas up first, and then, okay, when you're in the room, make sure you don't lean too hard left, too hard right. Make sure you suppress them down, and it's stuff that people think they know, right? Suppress, maneuver, destroy, simple stuff.
That's the easiest part of a gunfight.
But I don't think they understand how deep this goes, and from talks I've had with Garand and Kevin, how much thought that goes into this. And you know, you tell us this stuff for a younger generation of warfighters and a younger generation of people who are going to be putting themselves into these situations, and it's hard for the younger kids to hear this and not understand, because like you said, it took you a long time to understand what a lot of this meant. And that's why I think it's so important to hear these stories from you guys, from these I'm getting ready to call you the old breed now, you know, where you've been there, you've done that, and now you're training up and you're telling this newer, younger generation who's ready to carry that torch what it takes and what goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, what do they say? Be wary of an old man.
Old man in a profession where people die young.
Yeah. So fuck around and find out, kid. But no, in seriousness, I think, you know, talking about that with the younger generation of warriors, which is what I want to cater to, because you guys have to take the footsteps, man. You got to follow, and I hope that you follow greater and smarter than you ever could of the way we did. You know, I want to be smarter than my father in Korea. I want to be smarter than my grandfather in World War II, my great-grandfather in World War I, and so on, all the way back to the American Revolutionary War. I want to be bigger, better, stronger than all of them combined. Why? Because I can, as long as I listen. And I know not everybody's going to listen to all this.
No.
You know, I bet half of you guys already turned it off, right? You're already doing something else. And then for those that you are listening,
good on you.
I commend you, man. I mean, I honor you. I cherish you, because you're the future, you know, even especially if you're out there doing it right now. So, and with that, I'll leave you with this. You know, the biggest thing that I practice today is something that the Stoics came up with, which has really helped me out a lot. And I think there's a misconception on the Stoics as well. You know, the Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius kind of concept back in the Roman days. But a lot of people think Stoics is like, hey, Stoic, no emotion. Mm-hmm. That is not what it means whatsoever. I think, and Marcus Aurelius said it best, you know, we can talk of what a good man should be, or we can simply be one. Now, that's the hard part, is being a good man, right? And then he had another great saying that I'll leave you with, and that is Memento Mori. You know, and I'm not this like everyday hard charging Stoic, but I love all these different cultures, the warriors that gave us these tools today that go, you know what? Today you may die. And that's what Memento Mori means. So if we found out right now, Mike, that we're going to die tonight, you see his physiology change? It's right. You just saw that. So don't ignore that. So what are you going to do? And he said that let that notion of that today you may die drive your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And I try to do that the best I can. It's hard, man. It's not easy. And I wish I would have known some of these things, you know, back in the day. But back in the day, we didn't have this technology to find this information. You know, I didn't even know who my family lineage was until I got out of the military. Yeah. So I don't know how much more I would have known if I would have just done that. But hey, what happened, and it happened the way it happened. It didn't happen the other way. Why? Because it didn't. So I cherish every moment. Life is designed that way, to be about discovery and knowledge, and I hope some of this resonates with people out there and helps.
It was, man. Hey, Travis, thank you so much, man. I mean, this was a really cool conversation, and something that I think is vitally necessary, guys. If this conversation is really interesting to you, plenty more coming at you, right? Plenty more from a lot of just men who have a lot to tell you. So make sure that you follow these words, and that you be better, right? You do better, and you strive to be better.
Be a good man.
Yeah, be a good man. That's the hardest thing you can do. Guys, I think this conversation sums up what we typically do at the end. So I guess what we'll do, what we always do, which is to say that, be safe out there, and thank you for watching and staying tuned for this long. And truly, we have nothing else for you at this point. That's all of that advice we can take for one day. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.